Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Maverick here, and right now we're going to be watching episode 19 of Steins Gate 0. So, with the rather interesting episode 18 out of the way, I feel like all that's needed to be said has been said, both on my side. A lot of you guys have also expressed your disappointment and so on and so forth with the last episode, and I do thank you guys for continuing to watch on with me for this, even if you do feel like it might not be as preferable as the original Steins Gate, right? Now, certainly, with its flaws and all that, I still feel like it's entertaining enough. Although, the way that I view these kind of things is that if the series itself is ridiculous, then I'll just look at it through the lens of it being ridiculous, right? I'm not going to take it as seriously as much. Although, again, some of you guys have said that from the next few episodes on, it's going to gain back some of the flavor of the original Steins Gate. And I guess I can see why, in a sort of sense, because, judging from how events have gone so far, I think it's pretty obvious that Okabe is back on his... Well, I guess he's not quite back on his feet yet, but he has to be back on his feet in order to, do some things, do his usual shenanigans and whatnot, maybe revert back to his Yoin Kyoma character to save Mayuri and also all the rest of them, right? So that's probably why the next few episodes will have more of the original Steins Gate taste. But anyways, let's get into the episode right now and see what exactly happens. Alright, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. And like I said, I can't really think, I can't really do my usual fury crafting and whatnot because I feel like it's a little bit too ridiculous at the moment. Like, how do you even get an attack helicopter into Tokyo undetected and then get back out undetected? Yeah, but as with most things, that's probably beside the point. Anyways, let me skip this real quick. And back. I, mm, I mean, oh wait, that's a timely mission. Yeah, okay, but it's certainly being very unreasonable here. Hmm?
ブラウン管がもしかして電子銃？
I mean, not really discovered. It was more like an accident. And where's he heading to?
民間人の死者、負傷者とも見当たりません。
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Like, if they really were killed in that explosion, it's not like they can just evaporate, right? You would have wreckage, you would still have bodies. Of course, getting the crew back together again. Reminiscent of the original lab. She's worried she's going to fail. What? 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 Oh.
あるかアマデウスがリンゴをかけながら朝に じゃないですか。うさい
I feel like it's been a while since we've seen her.
私が言ってるんです。アキセク私が
Mhm. Trying to finish a time machine in 48 hours? Alright. And they probably have, even though they're working the same lab and stuff, you'd reckon that they would have different areas of specialization. Hmm.
決まっていた。
Deja vu.
合っていた。
Poor Maho. And in the true timeline, they don't actually meet, right? Hmm.
これより電話レンジかタイムリープを
Oh, hey,
使い続けた。感謝する。
Kyoma has returned.
バレたわけでもだし
Like, if she had the idea, if she had the capability to send out a message,
いいから行きなさいよ。
and that itself was something that she wasn't supposed to do, why doesn't she just
これは絶対にやる。
sit in plain text instead of in code?
何百回ダメだ。何億回
Eh.
全て作ってみせる。限りもかがりも
But yeah, anyways, I probably shouldn't take this too seriously.
これはその第一歩だ。
Hmm. We haven't done this in so long that I've even forgotten to keep track of the time and such. All right.
時間はあるはずだ。怒る。すぐエスキネン教授のパソコンをクラッキングしてアマデウスの中のクリスト・ヒアジョーさんのデータをバックアップごと削除するんだ。何を第三次世界大戦の引き金になる。万が一に備えてタイムリープ マシンの完成を。待って。プリン。あ、俺は未来から来た。そのタイムリープマシンを使って。待って。するの？どうやって？いる時間はない。間もなくここ体は戦場になる。戦場？秋葉全体に通信障害が起きているはずだ。あれは処理されたアマデウスのデータを優先ネットで探してくれ。くれぐれもラジカンには近づくな。やっているのは知っている。前の君出て捕まった。俺が戻ってくるまではラボから出ないでくれ。オカリン、演奏って中に。
Hmm.
いつラジカンに到着したのか正確にわからない。あの時もこうだった。夢の中で夢を何度も繰り返しているよ。はっきりしない君の感覚。俺のはず全てが現実。それは確かにあって、この後何が起きるか分かり、現実になっていくあの悪夢の数。
Right, so
世界に対して
what is he attempting to do right now then? Well, I guess if he doesn't stop them and just allows him to go on the way earlier, that might.
ここはあと1時間も経たないうちに戦場になる。ああ、タイムマシンの存在に気づいてここに乗り込んでくる。そしてタイムマシンは破壊される。適当なことを。今お前はもし俺が近づこうとしたら左足に銃弾をかすめさせようと考えている。と撃たれたからわかる。だったらなおのこと今行かなきゃ。そいつらが来たらもう二度と過去には飛べなくなる。
Yeah, they should.
オペレーションアークライト。8月にカリンおじさんスタインズゲートを目指すのを諦めたあの日に戻って。
That would make much more sense than him stopping here. There. That's what I was thinking. If they didn't have this entire, you know, conversation and whatnot, because Suzuha shot him, right? Shot Okabe, and then they had to spend time patching things up and saying last goodbyes and whatnot. Oh. Okay. Go! Go! Get moving! Hey, of course it was the professor. Oh, I see. Okay, so the professor and Alexis are actually on different sides. One is DARPA, one is Stratfor. But what? Fire? In the last episode, wasn't the Apache helicopter on the other side? On the side of DARPA? Really? Am I remembering things wrong? Right, the professor... Right, the professor was taken out, right? And then reinforcements came in. They came from the transport helicopter. And then the transport helicopter was attacked by the Apache helicopter, by the attack helicopter. So the attack helicopter should be with DARPA. And so with each time he leaves, he can actually go a little bit further back, right? Alright. I'm gonna check last episode again, and that helicopter, that roof scene again, because I feel like something's fishy about that. Alrighty, so that was episode 19, and we're finally back to the time travel shenanigans, right? And honestly, you know, just before anything else, this whole time during the episode, I was just screaming internally, like, just go! Stop, you know, stop talking so much and whatnot. They're right on your heels, just go. But I guess in the end, if that is part of convergence or whatnot, then it doesn't really matter how early they leave, right? But I just wanted to point out that I was kind of like, you know, it also sort of happened in the last episode as well, in episode 18, where Mayuri and Okabe were having this conversation right in the middle of a battle, and, you know, there's literally war going on, bullets are flying around, and they're having this really deep, heartfelt conversation with each other. I was like, come on, that is... It's ridiculous all the way through, but it's even more ridiculous in that scenario. And here I was thinking the exact same thing, like, okay, just... we can do the talking later, just go, right? But anyways, on to the actual stuff at hand. So, this episode did answer some questions, but, honestly, it raised a lot more. So for instance, you know, last episode, I did make the observation that Kaguri, it seemed that there were two masked women, right? Women in all black and wearing the motorcycle helmets. And I was wondering, like, why were there two there? So the answer is revealed. One of them was the female professor. Sorry, I kind of forgot her name. And the other was actually Kaguri, right? And of course, we now know that the other professor is working with DARPA. And so in the last episode, Kaguri killed her first before eventually arriving at the scene, and then conveniently regaining consciousness and so on and so forth. Whereas here she didn't. So, what's going on here? I guess we can just explain it with convergence because that's convenient, right? Yeah, if you can't tell, I don't really like that kind of explanation. But anyways, the confusing part though is, and I mentioned this within the episode, I feel like you know, we're not actually... So I went back and looked at episode 18 again, and I'm fairly certain that, okay, so on Alexis' side, on Professor Alexis' side, after he was subdued by Suzuha, reinforcements came, right? They came in, I believe it was, that helicopter is a Black Hawk. They came in on Black Hawk helicopters, about a squad of, I don't know, around 10 men or whatnot, and they were trying to secure the area, so on and so forth, right? And then immediately they were attacked by an attack helicopter, probably an Apache, judging by its shape, which was obviously, since it's attacking that transport Black Hawk, it's on the side of DARPA, right? And yet in this episode, it seemed that the Apache was actually on Alexa's side and was receiving orders from him to fire the missile, which, if that is an Apache, then that should be a Hellfire missile. I am kind of a military nerd in this sense. So I guess they both have access to these kinds of weapons and whatnot. Like, what? And not to mention, so in this episode, it seems that, Alexis was in control of the entire situation all the way through, right? So who eventually wipes them out, right? In the original, in last episode, both sides were fighting each other, both DARPA and I'm not quite sure which side, Stratfor, I guess, Stratfor. They were fighting each other, and so they kind of, there was a lot of wreckage and lots of bodies, they killed each other and whatnot, and so, in the end, Okabe was able to escape, out of all this confusion and whatnot, right? So, what happened here? I guess it's not really important, but I just feel like it's details like this that, it makes me question the seriousness of a series when they fail to give logical explanations as to what actually happened, right? Of course, we can always infer, and again, convergence, right? We can always use this excuse to make everything just happen smoothly, but I feel like that's a lazy way to write things. But yeah, so. Beyond that, let's talk about what can happen next, right? Because one thing that I actually want to mention before, and was confirmed in the very end of this episode, actually, after the ending, there was a small 10-second preview or whatnot, where it showed the date and time that Okabe actually landed on. And it was actually earlier than what he landed on in this episode once he used the film leap machine, right? And that was actually something that I was thinking of. That is, if, he can tell, it seems that Maho and Daru, once they get the information from Okabe, they are able to actually finish the machine in less than 48 hours. So, if that proves to be true, then shouldn't he theoretically be able to keep on going more and more to the past with each time? Like, say, for instance, they take a day to finish it, but you can leap back 2 days. So by repeating this process, you can basically slowly crawl forward to whatever time in the past that you want to crawl to, right? So that's one possibility and one way of things. One way that they can continue to do things, and eventually, like, if they want to, they could use this method to go all the way back 1 year, back to that time, right? So that's, I guess, one type of way that they can get back to that timeline. Not to that timeline. They can get back to that exact time in the timeline, and try to, force Okabe, or convince the Okabe of the past to carry on with his mission and try to stop World War III and also rescue Kurisu by searching for the Steinsgate timeline, right? That is potentially one kind of method. Another thing is, even though I have my problems with the entire concept of so-called fooling the timeline, right? Which is what the original Steinsgate was based on. But apparently, that is canon, right? So that's presumably what's going to happen. So armed with this knowledge, I'm actually also thinking perhaps the D-mail that the Okabe in the past received, and what convinced him to continue in search of the Steinsgate timeline, he received a D-mail, right? And that D-mail was supposedly from the far future. What if instead it was actually a D-mail sent by the Okabe of this right here and now to literally just his past self 1 year ago, right? Because we never actually see what Okabe looked like in the D-mail video message, right? It could potentially just be 1 year into the future, and they were just simply tricking the past him into doing this. So I think it's a possibility that they could also complete the phone wave, what's it called again? Oh, whatever, the D-mail machine, basically, and instead try to send this D-mail back to Okabe in the past, and, in that sort of way, give him the idea of fooling the timeline and such. And of course, they need to figure that out first themselves, right? Because we, as viewers, we know what's already going to happen in the future of this, but they don't know yet, so Okabe still needs to figure this one out. But I'm just saying that that's potentially a way that they can do this. And yes, of course, Suzuha was the one who had knowledge of this entire situation, but I feel like that could easily be remedied by also sending an email to Suzuha as well. So sending a Suzuha an email that tells her, hey, be prepared to show a email to Okabe, and and literally that's it, right? Then they send another email to Okabe, and then the whole thing could come together again. So I think like there's these two methods that can be possible in order to fix this situation and get to their goal of, I guess, Operation Arclight, right? And trying to convince the Okabe of the past to continue on the good fight, right? So yeah, that's, I think, my prediction for what's going to happen in the future, and I think that's basically it for this episode. I mean, there's lots of problems, like, honestly, there's still lots of problems I have with this episode as well, but I don't want to be like a negative Nancy and always concentrate on and always focus on those parts. So let's just move on with the story, shall we? So there you go. That's my review of episode 19 of Steins Gate 0. If there are any things that are explained actually in the visual novel and not actually explained in the anime, feel free to supplement that information as well. I probably, even if I think the chances of me actually playing through the Steins Gate 0 visual novel are fairly low, or visual novels in all, and then actually doing a recorded video on it, so I don't mind the spoilers for that part, and I would instead like to know the entire story. But don't spoil things that haven't happened yet, that we will see in the anime, right? So there we go, that's it. I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.